Have you ever, gotten that feeling like, someone's kind of pulling your strings, or maybe you're always the one bending over backwards for everyone else? Well, today we're going deep, really deep into something that's kind of always there in all our relationships, manipulation.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to look at the different ways this stuff can show up
All right.
using the work of Sarah Nielsen.
Oh,
Think of this as like your cheat sheet for spotting and understanding, those tricky relationship dynamics. It's like, I remember this one time a friend tried to convince me like really hard to go camping, but it was in February.
oh, wow.
Yeah. And they were all like, it'll build character.
Right.
I'm thinking more like build frostbite, but looking back, it kind of had that feeling of them trying to get their way without, really thinking about what I wanted. We've all been there, right?
Totally.
So our mission today is to help you, the listener, to recognize these manipulative tactics and get a sense of what kinds of personalities use them. And also, the traits that often make someone a target. We're going for those aha moments.
Love that.
Okay, let's jump in.
All right. So Nielsen really points out that manipulation often doesn't like announce itself. Right.
Right.
It's not so obvious. One of the most, I guess you could say, sneaky approaches is something she calls the seduction trap.
Okay. The seduction trap.
Yeah. And this is where, someone might shower you with praise and charm. Like they're super flattering,
Yeah.
maybe really supportive at first.
Oh, so it's like they're really nice.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But the thing is, it's designed to get your loyalty, to build that trust really fast.
Mm-hmm. So like they're trying to get something?
Well, they're definitely setting the stage, right? Because Nielsen points out this tactic really works on people who, might have some self-esteem issues or like body image stuff.
Right. So if you're already feeling a bit vulnerable, this can be really powerful.
Exactly. You're not feeling so good about yourself. And then, bam, someone's giving you all this positive attention.
It feels amazing, right?
Yeah, totally. And, it could feel like a lifeline. But the point is, the manipulator's goal isn't just to make you feel good. I mean, sure, it feels good in the moment, but they're trying to become like your main source of happiness.
Okay. So they're making you depend on them.
Right. And they're setting things up so that later they can use those insecurities against you.
Wow. It's like building you up to knock you down.
Kinda, yeah.
So with the seduction trap, the takeaway is be careful of those really intense positive connections early on. It might not be what it seems.
Exactly. It's about being aware. Now, Nielsen also talks about different types of manipulators, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Okay, yeah, tell me about the types.
So she says understanding the type can actually help you, defend yourself against them.
Okay, that makes sense. So like forewarned is forearmed.
Exactly. So one type she describes is the indifferent manipulator.
Indifferent, so like they don't care.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
how they act. They're always like, whatever you're doing or saying, they just don't seem to care.
oh, I know someone like that.
Right. It can be really frustrating. But the thing is, this indifference, it actually can grab your attention.
Really?
Yeah, because you end up trying harder to get through to them, to make them react.
I can see that.
Yeah.
You want to know what they're thinking, right?
Yes. And the manipulator, they're really good at giving just enough, like little bits of attention, enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to truly change their, aloofness.
It's like they're dangling a carrot you can never quite reach.
Yes. And that's when they've got you. Because now you're asking questions, trying to figure them out, and that's exactly what they want.
So they're using your genuine concern against you.
That's it. Your care and your effort become their power.
That's kind of messed up. Okay, so we've got the charmers with the seduction trap, and then the ones who act like they don't care. What other types are there?
Right. Well, the next one is the critic.
The critic. Oh, I feel like I know this one too.
I think we all do. This type, they mostly use criticism to, like, get what they want. They love to target people who are trying to please them.
Right. People pleasers.
Yes. But the thing about the critic is their standards are impossible to meet.
So it's that nothing is ever good enough kind of thing. I've definitely had bosses like that.
Yeah. And it's totally draining. You constantly feel like you're falling short. And Nielsen says this is exactly what the critic wants. They want you to feel worthless.
So they can feel superior.
Yes. And what's really sad is that the victim, they often start changing themselves, trying to be more like the critic, hoping to get their approval.
Yeah, you try to adapt to whatever they want.
But it's a trap because you'll never be good enough.
And they'll always find something else to criticize.
Exactly. And Nielsen calls this their carrot and stick approach. Like sometimes they give you a tiny bit of praise just to keep you going, but then it's right back to the criticism.
So manipulative.
Totally. And Nielsen actually says there's an even worse type than the critic.
Worse than the critic. Okay, that sounds bad.
Yeah. This one is called the intimidator. She calls them the worst of the worst.
Wow. Strong words.
Because these guys, they're way more aggressive. They're willing to use fear, even violence.
Oh, wow. So it's not just words anymore.
Right. The intimidator, they use fear to control you. It's not so much about chipping away at your self-esteem like the critic, but more about making you afraid to disobey.
That's scary. So they use fear to get what they want.
Yeah, like if they tell you to do something, you do it because you're terrified of what will happen if you don't. Nielsen says you see this a lot in abusive relationships.
Right, where there's threats or actual physical violence.
Exactly. The intimidator is all about taking away your ability to defend yourself.
Yeah.
It can be physical or, even psychological.
That's awful. So we've got these different types of manipulators. The seducers, the indifferent ones, the critics, and the intimidators. And each one uses different tactics to control people. It's really disturbing to think about. But I think what's important now is to understand who becomes a target, right? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of person are these manipulators looking for?
That's a great question. And Nielsen, she spends a lot of time talking about the traits that make someone vulnerable.
Okay, good. So what are those traits?
One of the biggest ones is like not being assertive.
Okay, so someone who has trouble saying no.
Exactly. These are people who have a hard time saying no, even when, it's really inconvenient or even risky. They might go along with things even if it hurts them or people they care about.
I can see how that would be like a magnet for a manipulator.
Totally. It's like a green light for them to just keep pushing and pushing.
And the person who's not assertive, they probably feel guilty if they do say no, right?
Right. They feel like they're doing something wrong, which makes it
Yeah.
even harder to stand up for themselves.
So sad. What else does Nielsen say about who manipulators target?
Well, another big one is naivete.
Okay, so like being too trusting.
Yeah, kind of. It's more like believing that everyone is good deep down. Like no one is truly bad.
Oh, so seeing the good in everyone, that sounds like a good quality.
It is. But the problem is manipulators use that against you.
So you end up giving them chance after chance.
Exactly. You keep hoping they'll change, that the good will come out. But Nielsen says sometimes it's better to just walk away.
That's tough though, right? To give up on someone.
It is. But sometimes it's necessary for your own well-being.
Okay, so we've got not being assertive and being naive. What else makes someone vulnerable to manipulation?
Let's see. Nielsen also talks about being over-conscientious.
Overconscientious. What does that mean?
It means like always giving people the benefit of the doubt, always trying to see their side of
That's
things.
very understanding.
Yeah. And it's a great quality in a healthy relationship. But with a manipulator, it just gives them more power.
Because they'll use your empathy against you.
Right. They might even make you feel responsible for their actions. Like it's your fault they're behaving badly.
That's really messed up.
It is. It's like your best qualities get turned against you.
That's a good point. So what's the last trait Nielsen talks about?
Okay, the last one is low self-confidence.
Okay. So not feeling good about yourself.
Right. And always like being worried about what other people think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally like that, you know? Like, if I wear the wrong thing or say something stupid, I obsess over it for days.
Yeah, I get that. And those are the feelings that manipulators love to play on.
Because you're already doubting yourself.
Exactly. They can really use your insecurities to control you.
So, just to recap, we've talked about the seduction trap, different types of manipulators, and the traits that make someone a target.
Right.
But Nielsen actually has an even more specific list of what she calls like red flags for emotional manipulators.
Hmm.
She says these are the things they really zero in on, almost like a checklist, which is kind of scary.
It is. And I think it's important for us to go through them because it might help people recognize these patterns in their own lives.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So, what's the first thing on Nielsen's list?
The first one is dependency.
Dependency. So, like relying on other people too much.
Yeah. Manipulators, they love it when someone is dependent on them, for emotional support or even financially.
Right, because then they have all the power.
Exactly. And one of the ways they do this is by isolating you from your friends and family.
So you're all alone and have no one to turn to but them.
That's it. What's next on the list? Let's see. Oh, immaturity.
Immaturity, like acting childish.
Yeah, but it's more like not being emotionally mature. And these people are easy to manipulate because they might still be trying to please authority figures or maybe even rebel against them.
So they're not really thinking for themselves.
Right. And they might not question the manipulator's tactics.
Okay, so dependency, immaturity. What else?
Okay. Nielsen also mentions naivete.
Again, we already talked about that.
I know, but it's really important. Remember, this is the idea that there's no real evil in the world, or at least it won't happen to them.
Right, so the manipulator can easily deceive them.
Exactly. They come across as harmless, trustworthy, while they're actually taking advantage of the situation.
Like the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Okay, so what else is there?
This one's kind of similar. Impressionable.
Impressionable,
Yeah.
so like easily influenced.
Yeah. These are people who are easily convinced, especially of things that aren't true. And a manipulator can really shape their whole worldview.
So they start to believe the manipulator's version of reality.
Yes. And anyone who tries to tell them otherwise, like friends or family who are worried, they get seen as the enemy.
That's really sad. They're being manipulated into pushing away the people who care about them.
It's heartbreaking.
Mm.
Okay, next on the list is trusting.
Trusting, isn't that a good thing?
It is in a
Oh.
healthy relationship. But manipulators take advantage of trusting people.
Because these people assume everyone has good intentions.
Right. They can't imagine someone would lie to them or try to hurt them.
Hmm.
So they're very vulnerable to the manipulator's lies and, their attempts to blame others.
Wow. Okay, so what else?
Next up is lonely.
Lonely. So they're looking for connection.
Yeah. And that makes them really vulnerable, especially if they don't have a lot of support from friends and family.
Because anyone who shows them kindness will seem like a good person.
Exactly. And they might let the manipulator into their lives without really thinking about it.
Just because they're desperate for connection. Okay, what else is on the list?
Okay, this one's interesting. Narcissistic.
Narcissistic, so like people who are really into themselves.
Yeah. You wouldn't think they'd be easy targets, right? But Nielsen says manipulators are good at using flattery to control them.
Oh, so they play into their ego.
Exactly. They tell them how great they are, how special they are.
And the person's too busy admiring themselves to see what's happening.
Pretty much. They're focused on that positive self-image, and they might not be willing to see their own faults.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
What's next?
Impulsive.
Impulsive. So people who act without thinking.
Yeah. People who have trouble controlling their emotions. They might get angry easily or make quick decisions without thinking things through.
And the manipulator can use that to their advantage.
Totally. They can provoke them into anger and then use that anger to make them feel guilty.
So they're controlling them through their emotions. What's the last one on the list?
Okay, the last one is altruistic.
Altruistic. That sounds like a good thing.
It is. It means being really honest, fair, and empathetic. But manipulators can twist that.
How?
Well, they're good at faking emotions, so they might act really hurt or angry even when they're not.
Then the altruistic person will try to help them.
Exactly. They'll bend over backwards to make things right because they just want to be kind and helpful.
And the manipulator's taking advantage of that.
Totally. They feed off that drama and use it to get what they want. So, as you can see, manipulation is a really complex issue.
Yeah, it is. And it's not always easy to spot.
No. But the good news is now you have a better understanding of the different tactics and the personality types involved.
And you know what to look for in terms of the red flags.
Exactly.
So to everyone listening, take a moment to think about your own relationships. Have you ever encountered any of these dynamics? Remember, understanding these patterns isn't about becoming suspicious of everyone. It's about being informed and empowered.
Right.
It's about recognizing those red flags and setting healthy boundaries. And sometimes it might even mean walking away from a relationship that isn't good for you. It's not easy, but it can be so important for your own well-being.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. We hope you found this information helpful and insightful. Remember, knowledge is power. And the more you understand about manipulation, the better equipped you'll be to navigate these challenges and build healthy, authentic relationships. Thanks for listening.